This meeting is being recorded. Welcome to the CDC session. Today we will look at why to ban gene alteration or why not to ban. So we will look at the fundamental elements that comes from both the sides, the key argument, the principal argument, and the practical argument. So Arjun Dakshesh, are you able to look at the internet? Able to crop say some objective
Yes,
definition?
yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Was
So,
but everything there's some terms I don't understand. Scientific stuff.
explain to me? I will at least read them now. I will try to explain.
So what happened to your microphone?
Am I audible? Not audible.
So your microphone is suddenly amplified.
Yeah. Is it audible? I'm audible, not
Yeah, now you are. It
okay, perfect.
was.
Dakshesh, you want to take an attempt?
yes, gene alteration is modification of gene in particular organisms. Like if the genes of the organism is not working properly, there would be engineers who would be implanting another set of genes to it so that it could function properly.
Okay, that's fair. Well, I guess then I need to explain you a bit of gene engineering before going to the motion altogether. Look, have you heard about DNA?
Yes,
Yes.
Correct. So DNA is like a building block of our all living organism. It's not just us, all living organism, including your plants, animals, all have DNA. And DNA actually decide what kind of body we will be able to form. They decide my eye color, my hair, my height, my everything. Because ultimately our body is made up of molecules and especially that proteins. Yeah, go ahead, Arjun.
Just like cells, the nucleus contains the DNA, which tells the functions of the cells.
Yes, so DNA is almost in every cell, if you look at that. And
Yeah.
they had the encoded. So, for example, you have codes, correct? So, for example, we're using Zoom. So, Zoom, what we see is a UI, that's like the front end, correct? We can see. But behind each and every function, there is a code. You see, each and everything. So, for example, whoever is the Zoom creators, the company, there will be people working on chat. They will be working on how to make camera live, the audio, and all these are small independent codes. Hi Vedant,
Hi, sir.
you want to put your camera on?
Yeah, hi.
Okay. So I guess I should do welcome, but anyway, we all are late. So uh, let's jump to the debate. So I'm gonna share for you the motion just in quick snap. So we are looking at this house could ban all further research in gene alteration. Correct. This is the topic that we're gonna look upon. What we were seeing that we identified the key terms. This house would that obviously I will explain what does it mean. But the first thing that we need to understand in this debate is the keyword gene alteration. Because if you don't understand that, then you can't really make an argument. So do you have a view? What is gene alteration?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So it's basically modifying the genes of any living organism to either make that organism more productive from a market perspective. Like, for example, in the 1970s in the EU, there was a food crisis, and because of that, countries signed a pact to start genetically modifying fruits and vegetables to make them more resilient to droughts, etc. So, and that's what later turned into GMOs.
Yeah, give me a second. Hello? Yes, ma'am. Yes. Uh, can we talk like later? Is it possible? Yes. So fundamentally, what you're saying is totally right. As we were explaining to everyone, that each one of us, the living organism, have DNA, and DNA has the structure which actually defines our body, all the traits that we have. DNA is a long molecule, and it has multiple, it's a kind of code which define what kind of color and different parts we have. Also, it defines which kind of genetic disease we are prone to. Correct. Now that's the case we understand. Now we as a human always have a tendency to play with the things. Correct. You do it with a computer, with a coding. You write essays and letter. In case of our body, we were not able to modify it. Obviously, you must have heard about genetically modified crops. It's a long debate across the world that should we go for a genetically modified crops or not. Correct. And it's happening across various industry. People want to have higher yields. So let's suppose if a wheat is there, and today wheat and rice take a lot of water. Can we create genetically modified rice which will take less water because it will be much more eco-friendly? Also, if we can increase the nutrient within that. So how to do that is that you change the DNA and look at the DNA, identify which part correspond to water need, which part correspond to nutritional value, and modify that part. That's gene alteration. That's the fundamental part. That we're looking at living species and modifying their genetic uh, engineering, genetic composition. That's what gene alteration is. Now, what happened that gene alteration in some way was going on for last some years, but in the last 30 years, especially in the last 10 years, with a technology called as CRISPR, it has become drastically very much uh, achievable, affordable, accessible to everyone. So even you with a kit of say 1,000, or even like you that's, though it's a huge amount, but still not huge amount as compared to hundred of crores. Earlier, you need to have access to a lab. Today, with a kit, it's like same as computer. 100 years back, not 100, even like 30 years back, how many people would have afforded a laptop, a computer? Very few.
Very few.
Today it's almost our smartphone is much more smart as compared to the earlier supercomputers in 60s and 70s. Same happening with the genetic engineering, that the kits that coming today, especially on the CRISPR, you're able to have. So for example, people do it in the, if you go to say Caltech or biotech or engineering over there, so their first year program is to design luminous frog. So in India, we do, dissect the frog. So you look at the body within that. How they do? They put an injection to a frog. Frog is the most common experiment that the biochemist, biological engineer do, and they make it more luminous. So basically, you identify a cell and make it glow, as you have other insects which glow in the light. This is what is gene alteration. Now, the problem with the gene alteration is that when it comes to humans, it has some ethical questions. For example, as we know, look, there are a lot of, look at what's in the world. So you have issues around equality. Some people can afford so much and some people less. Obviously, with the gene alteration, what will happen? That few people able to get this
Change in eye
surgery,
color and
yeah, and they can improve their processes. Correct. So that's the one ethical question, because ultimately it's going to be only initially available only for the rich people. So those ethical questions, we need to look at this debate, that should we ban gene alteration altogether at this point of time. Now, before anything, I want you to understand, uh, do you have, look, you all are in 7th to 8th grade. You have any prior knowledge about like biology? Have you heard about like something germline cell?
can you repeat, sir?
Germline cell?
Germline
Okay,
cell.
so
I have heard, but
in our
I didn't.
body, okay, so you must have seen the movies like Marvels and all, correct? The idea is that we can have a new superhuman only with some sort of mutation from us. So if our body goes some sort of mutation, then someone will become a superpower, like superhuman. It happened to X-Men and all, correct?
So,
That's what happened.
like the
Right?
Flash, like the Flash, like
Yeah.
many superhuman.
Correct. And in the Dune, I don't know if you've seen the Dune, that people go through some sort of X-rays and they become a different altogether because their DNA changes. And also happen in the bad way. The cancer is a one reason that why people's DNA modify, behave badly. There's a bad mutation happen which cause rapid increase of dead cells. So that's the case. Now the question in this debate is that should we, so within the gene alteration, there are two kind of gene alteration when we talk about human. One is a germline, one is not a germline. Germline is that if I modify the genes of Vedant, then all the offspring means the potential whenever the son, daughter, Vedant will have, all will have that kind of modification. Other is just which I treat Vedant or have any superpower to Vedant, and there will be no effect to the his son, daughter, whatever he has. So that what is two difference. Now, do you see any ethical question in terms of using gene editing? Yeah, Vedant, you're nodding. You want to give us perspective?
Yeah, there are possibilities that people with higher power, high amounts of money, they essentially become these controlling powers. These, you could say, sort of oligarchs. They become these controlling powers of the world because they've developed such an important, like such a game changing modification for humans that in the wrong hands, if it's possessed, it could cause a lot of pain and suffering. Essentially, these big corporate companies which have created this thing could have a lot of power, like power. Uh, you could call them global superpowers.
Sir, also there can create equality would be demolished because rich people can afford money and they could change their DNA, but not every people can't do so. There can be increase in not there would be decrease in equality and increase in inequality.
Fair. Arjun, what's your perspective?
I think that this could help a lot in the world. There will be some disadvantages, but then there are also a lot of advantages which could help a lot in the future.
Yeah, I will come to the. So you are primarily talking about the opposition. Let's
Yeah.
talk about just the proponent, which means that we are looking to speak as a government, which is looking to ban this altogether. So think about argument that you will go as team proposition, the
And I
bad
could
things of the
say it could
alteration.
be, and I could say it could be dangerous since not it's not been tested that much on humans. It's been tested on animals, but who say it will be the same with humans?
So you are saying uncertainty involved. That's
Yeah,
the question.
yeah.
Okay, fair. So one of the argument that the Vedanta and Dakshis has a clash, means both sort of march on that idea, is that today the biggest, if you look at the SDGs and every country, it's not just for the India, the biggest concern we have that there are people that there's a huge inequality across the world. There are people who have resources in terms of financial resource, political resource, good access to food and everything, and then there are people who can't afford majority of the thing, and they're even not able to go to the good schools, and they live in a perpetual state of not access to any system. Correct, you can identify a lot of people in India, they can't even take food. Correct, they know they are malnourished, and if these people, they don't have access to anything, that's the status quo now. And this problem existing for so many years, but what was happening in the last so many years, for example, even king and queens were there. Correct, there are so many kings and queen, whatever, but none of the area, even if someone is a super rich, they're essentially humans today. Even Jeff Bezos, maybe you can say Elon Musk is something else, but still is a human. Fundamentally everything is same, though they might be, they have access to so many things, but fundamentally as a body wise they are same. They might have access to best healthcare. If they have a fever, even they have cancer, even they can survive. The poor people with a cancer will have a less likely chances of surviving. But this genetic modification can create two species within the humans, the people who have extra powers and who don't. So, for example, if we create a gene alteration and we say that these people who go through this surgery will be prone to cancer. Now, altogether, you created a new species. Now, this species we consider another species as backward, that they are taking resources, but eventually they're going to die. That's the biggest problem we create. It's going into eugenics in the sense that how we look at another animals, though we respect and treat animals, as, and now there's a lot of conversation about treating them well and all, but how we treat them, look at, we do test animals on multiple scales. Whenever any medicine come to us, it has been tested on rats, frogs, so many animals. We put them from Africa to India, like what, we do so many experiments with them. There's a very much possibility if we make this genetically modified, so we can create two species within that. That's the one argument, and it can be a blunder to the people who don't have the access. And obviously, the people who have, who are this part, they don't want this to happen. And as a government today, government don't want to create this subdivision. Government rules line in talking about, thinking about all the stakeholders. That means all the people of the. This is one of the uh, ethical concern. It's not happening tomorrow if we just, the motion is about banning research. So correct. So this is not an issue in terms of practical, because it's not a that immediately happen tomorrow. It will happen when you have a research done, when you have all the solution in the world. It's the after implication, but it's a very much ethical question that what can happen to the world. Is this clear?
Yes.
Correct. And I guess similar, so AI debate happen. Correct. So AI, especially in terms of research and access to the corporate, it's also similar line of challenge that people who are rich, people who have money, people who have resources, for example, your, let's suppose Elon Musk and all, and if they create the true intelligence, they call as AGI, artificial general intelligence, look at how tremendous power that they will have. So again, they will not become superhumans, but they have superhumans working for them. That's the same line of argument reasoning you can make for banning AI together, because in the AI there can be another argument to make that AI itself can become intelligent and can fight against us like a matrix and all. But one of the argument is that access to AI will increase the uh, inequality to a drastic scale, which will never be solvable in the world altogether. So you see that in a debate, there are principal arguments. If you learn them, you can make in many areas. So this is what I give you a ethical argument. Can you think of a practical argument in this case? And I guess where is Arjun? Yeah. Okay, Takshish. Yeah, Arjun make a point at the end. That was a fair point. Could you elaborate that point? Give a practical argument. Look, the distinction between a practical and a moral ethical argument is the time span. What is affecting in 3 to 4 years is more of a practical argument, which is immediately affecting us. The thing which gonna affect us in the long term, they become more of a philosophical ethical argument. The both are valid and valid, but the idea is that it's a major line of distinction that you can draw. Yeah, go
Sir,
ahead.
can I say a practical argument?
Well, go ahead.
Sir, gene editing is not in a high advanced level currently. It will change period by period, but we are at this point of time we are not 100% guaranteed that this uh, will be successful for every people now. So there can be blunders made for some people, and some people would have successful gene editing. So it's a 50-50 risk.
So I was saying along the same lines, like what if it's successful, but then there's a different problem that maybe turns up later, and this could happen to many people, and some people may even get really sick doing this. New diseases might get found and spread.
Yeah, yeah. Look, it's the same. Say you three gone into the same direction. The Vedant started with earlier point that the uncertainty involved. What Dakshay says 50-50, that's equivalent to saying there's a high uncertainty. We don't know which way it will go. Correct. Now the challenge with all three of you is that you have given the ideas. Let's try to make an argument out of that. So in an argument, you have to make three things. You need to make a claim, which you make it a more substantial claim. Then you need to give reasoning, which is some sort of analysis. And then last, give me an example. Could you give me an example? Because otherwise it's a theoretical, correct? So I don't want to make it a theoretical, give a practical what happened. Give me a case study, give me an example that where it affected. That because look, the idea of giving an example to make your argument more practical, because it's already happened in the world, and we are talking about a practical argument. When we talk about a practical argument, example are crucially important because it showcase, oh, this happened somewhere. So we need to really tackle it today. So take a moment, think about what you will, make a substantial argument. Let's suppose if you are writing, correct? Vedant, you mentioned that you write a lot, correct? So think that you're gonna write a para on this point. Now, what are the things that you're gonna involve? Make a solid argument that is hard to sort of rebuttal reply.
Sir, with an example.
Yes, yes, with an example, yeah. An example can be various. It can be from another industry, that how we were thinking that we should experiment it, but it gone totally wrong. So give me an example. People were thinking that it will go 50-50, but the risk was so high that people realize, oh my god, what we have done.
Can we research for this?
Yeah, take 3 to 4 minutes. Yeah, surely.
This meeting is being recorded. So my example is that though 15% of the only 15% of the total, like 100%, 15% of them has a chance of failures. But the interesting fact here is that even scientists don't know that why this 15% is a failure. even Even scientists who have been researching on them why it's getting failure, they really didn't find out an answer, and still it's a mystery too. So if the it's in CRISPR, so if it fails, there is no remedy to recover it. And also it causes future children's and future generation, depending upon the AI and gene editing.
Uh, okay. Look, Arjun, Vedant, do you find the first one as an example? But look, isn't you feel that the uncertainty is part of any research? Even in case of AI, there is no guarantee that
Yeah,
we will able to fake AGI. To
yeah,
do any research, correct? Whether it's about creating, there's always a chance of failure. Now, what you're talking about, uncertainty involved, that's with almost even disease today, correct? You go for a cancer treatment, especially if you are someone is at the fourth level, it's a 50-50, or maybe whatever the percentage that they give you. So I guess that's very much a part of scientific process, especially when you talk about high-end innovation. At least, I'm not able to absorb this in example. If Vedant, Arjun, you consider example, tell us your view. But I don't see this as a concrete example, to be honest. And second, you talk about problem to the futuristic children. Again, that's a it's a claim you are making. But do you have an example to back it up? What happens to kid or any other technology where it goes bad? Arjun, Vedant, you done your research.
yeah. So as I was saying before, gene therapy can cause side problems. Even if it's successful, it can cause side problems, but there are high chances it's not successful, as we're not, our technology in gene therapy is not that advanced yet. So I have an example to back this up. Malaria. So scientists was researching malaria, but most people did not believe him. So This caused a lot of this caused the disease to spread all over the country, as people did not believe that mosquitoes were the one that caused malaria.
Okay, fair. Explain your so mosquitoes, mm, but this is a natural phenomena, correct?
Yeah.
The mosquito one. How we will claim that what humans have done has been tremendously negative for us. Look, research, no
I can.
research, what the mosquitoes are doing, or are doing for so many years, like bad thing for us, like all these diseases are happening irrespective of our research.
Yeah.
All is that our understanding was correct, incorrect. That was a argument in this case. uh, Give me an argument in terms of artificially created some sort of a system, because we are talking about alteration, gene alteration, that
Um.
primarily artificial system that we are talking about.
So one question is: gene alteration similar to gene therapy?
Okay, describe gene therapy to me.
So gene therapy is just the same thing. Like you take old genes and replace them with new ones. So I learned this that
Mhm.
they use they use viruses uh, to as transport pods for the new genes and to take out the old genes, and they
You
program the
mean
virus to.
genes? uh, okay, so let's talk about, is it gene or is it your blood cells that you're talking about?
Sir, genes.
Okay. So I have to precisely check what you mean by gene diagnostic, but there are other elements. So, for example, have you heard of a stem transfer? Correct. That if someone is going through blood transfusion, in which case the person has to be transferred or given a new blood each time. That's happening for so many years. What happening today is that we can modify your genes, so your offspring. So for example, let's suppose my parents, you look at my eyes, correct, my eyes are black, and neither my parents, my grandparent have blue eyes, but I love blue eyes. How can I do that? Or I want my kids to have blue eyes. Today there is no mechanism. The only way it can be done is through gene alteration. Again, if what I understood why your idea of gene, is that even in your case, what are the current system goes on, I can modify genes of arjun. In your case, there is no mechanism for me to change genes of offspring of arjun. So I can't assure without gene editing that your offspring has blue eyes. In the case of gene editing, it's very much possible through germline editing that I can ensure. So, for example, the positive side of this is that people who are have genetic disease, if I modify their genes, then I can ensure that their children will not have at least that specific disease. So they're going to be not they're going to be prone to that. They will live a happy life, at least in terms of that quote unquote disease.
Like the COVID antibodies.
Yeah, COVID antibodies is a much is a even easy as compared to gene editing. It's primarily
Yeah.
it's your level, correct? So for example, this is a good example. So in case of COVID vaccine, correct? Let's suppose if today someone is a mother, correct? Someone is a pregnant, and if you give them a vaccine, so the mother will have the antibodies, but the kids might not. So the kids in the future, few years down the line, will have to take a vaccine, and you as a kid would have taken so many vaccine. I don't know if you recall,
Yeah.
when you born up, uh, early born child go for so many vaccines, chicken pox and all together, because the gene editing was not there. We were giving the antibodies just to one parent, the mother. It was not passing to the germline. Now we can do that. That we can have gene alteration within your mother with these technologies. So the earlier diseases surely will not pass to the kid. That's very much possible with these technologies. That's the change. Let's back. Uh, Before I move to a game, but I want to see how you can use internet, anything, because it's much more obviously a knowledge part. But go ahead, Vedant. Yeah.
Yeah, I have my research now. Yes. So my claim is that humans aren't. My claim is that humans aren't yet ready to start genetically modifying themselves. Um, because such genetic modifications at a current stage, where there are promising results, but the studies have not yet come in. There is no actual like proof that it will work. There's huge amounts of uncertainty. During such a time, humans are just not ready for this concept. And an example of this is when a researcher for a biophysicist called Guy Jianqui's He Juanqi uses CRISPR technology to modify human embryos and make them resistant to HIV, which led to the birth of two twins. And so because of this, there was a lot of backlash in the scientific community, and a lot of stuff went wrong in this experiment, and currently is facing a lot of fines. So it's better that we first get enough research to actually start genetically modifying.
Yeah. So I guess the example that you quote is a Chinese example. What happened over there? That generally the consensus among the scientists was that, and that what you say CRISPR, we call it CRISPR. It's a technology to gene alteration. The 2020 Nobel Prize was given to the Jennifer Doudna for this CRISPR innovation in 2012 onwards. Now come back to your example. In that example, what happened that, as I said, like germline editing, especially the germline editing, people still don't have a mandate to do that because we are looking at altering the species altogether. So we know that today there is no solution to HIV. You know, this is a fact. So now people are obviously working for so many years that we have. So, but people have identified there is a particular gene which cause it. And if we modify that gene, then we can do it. So what this person do? So this person goes on to added the germline of upcoming born babies. So he created synthetic babies with their germline added. So they, irrespective of whatever they do, today there are certain things that you can't do to get HIV. Even if you do whatever, you can never get HIV. So to prove his point, he get into creating synthetic babies. And that's what people say that's not what you have done correct. And that's why he's facing backlash. He's been abandoned by the research community. That's what is the case. So that's one. Obviously, in this case, what is not proven is that these baby having some sort of side effect. So what is proven in this example is the side effect in the sense that how community reacting, that people are not reacting it, positively, but the ultimately negative has not really happened till today. So that's the care. The one example which I primarily find, which I guess Ajli was talking about, which always you should remember when we talk about AI or anything in terms of artificial, is talk about plastic. The biggest so one we have a climate change as a crisis. One crisis we have is the abundance of plastic. Could you imagine how much plastic we have? Any guess? Give me a number.
Nearly 200 pounds.
That's a very small number. Give me a say overall
Billions
number.
of billions of pounds are released into the ocean every year.
Yeah,
And
we have.
something shocking that I found online is like only like 1 to 10% of it is found in the ocean, and the rest is gone deep into the ocean and has mixed with the Earth's crust and
Yeah.
in other layers of the Earth.
Yeah. So the issue with plastic is that today it's billion of tons. So there, look how many people are there on the earth? 7 billion, around 7 billion. Correct. 1.3 in India, 1.4 in China, overall 7. Even out of that, if some like 1 billion people are quite rich, they can afford a lot of things. Look at our life. On a daily basis, you use so much plastic. On a yearly basis, we use regular billion of tons. And where this is going, and the biggest problem with the plastic is that it's not degradable. So you are creating new altogether on a rapid pace, and it's going everywhere. It become part. You must be hearing about microplastic in oceans, in your food, in supply chain, everywhere,
Yeah,
and it's filled up with dust everywhere.
we're creating faster than the environment can clean it up for us.
Yeah,
And we're
and you
even
know,
destroying the environment at the same time.
yeah, and the interesting part is that so plastic is totally a synthetic material. It's not found in the nature. It's hydrocarbons of 50, 60 years, and it's not something very old like people discovered 100 years back. It's only 60, 70s back that we identify plastic. But when we identify plastics, people were so, enthusiastic that we find a look. So don't think it now. Think it that at that point of time, people think, look, we have find such a great alternative to steel and all. It's lightweight. So earlier, what you alternative you have? You have a paper which can tear apart, though it's biodegradable and all, but it tear apart. Then you have metals which can't really you use.
Cloths.
Clothes were there, but they're not scalable in that sense.
Yeah, but like bags, for bags they use cloths, but now we can use plastic.
Yeah, so today we recognize that clothes are one alternative, but say 10, 60 years when the people discover. So the idea is that how people perceive scientific research, that you want to prove in your point, that look at, so today we don't know how the gene alteration will go, correct, until unless we experiment something, we put it out in the world, we will never know, correct. Now think, give an example of a different artificial thing which is a plastic, that when people discover that this is a plastic which is lightweight, durable and cheap, three combination together, they didn't realize at that point that this durability can be a disastrous thing. You understand that humans are generally not able to think and without experiment for the long term, and also long term we're only able to when we have the data. At that point we say, wow, this is a technology we will should use everywhere, and each part of the world identify that we will use plastic. Now look at everything, plastic bottle, uh, even this has some sort of plastic, uh, the food you order from Swiggy, Amazon, everything as plastic. Your uh, there's so many areas where plastic is there, and today we're realizing that durability was a one area, so we don't know the long term effect. And if we let then it happen, then it can be disastrous, which was the idea of a Frankenstein. That Frankenstein is you created a monster, but you don't know it's a monster until unless you let it out. And it is out, then you can't take it back. Today, we don't have any solution to go back to alternatives. So you talk about that. There is a simple debate that we do for this younger student. This house would ban plastic. Correct. It seems very easy debate. Agree?
Yeah, but no, it actually, if we
Yeah, it
ban
has
plastic, then
yeah, it has layers and layers of like actual studies, research. There are a lot of different opinions on it, because in one hand, you should ban plastic because um, you should ban plastic because it's bad for the environment, but on the other hand, it's helping the economy so much. Um, Such a cheap material. There are not many materials that are as cheap, as durable as plastic, and so many companies use it because of these two factors. And until we actually find a replacement, we can't necessarily outright ban it.
That's a very valid argument, Vedant. Yeah, Arjun, you want to say something? Go ahead.
yeah, so plastic is harmful for the environment, but then if we ban plastic, that'll be a lot of disadvantages for us. I mean, look at the amount we use. We use, as Vedant said, um, one. I don't know what amount of plastic is used every year, and it's very helpful for us. So I guess if we ban plastic, that'll be a disadvantage for us, but it good for the environment.
Sir, can I
Yeah,
add some point?
go ahead, go ahead.
So also there would be no alternative for plastic because we are manufacturing plastic a large number, but we can't. If we ban plastic, we can't drill and take out metals that much, and it would be a huge like we need to spend more money on drilling and also making the metal into stuff. But plastic, it would be very easy. We can't make metal covers or like that.
Yeah, so fairly what all you are saying, and this is I come to the point on the plastic, is that uh, so within, if you look at the ethical side and the practical side, the ethical statement is a should statement. We should ban plastic. Look, everyone want environment, planet. We all want it. Like, we don't want to live in a world full of garbage. Correct. But the practical argument make it such a difficult task that, look at India so many times talk about we will ban plastic. Look at your cities. uh, you are coming from different cities. Each time I've seen campaign, and I'm seeing it at least for the 10 years. I'm at least bit elder to you, and you must be seeing at least for 3 4 years in your school. School says we will ban plastic, city says we will ban plastic, but they find that it's so challenging. Just getting alternative of a plastic straw was so difficult, and we are consuming plastic at such a scale, at so many level. So the practical argument that we have no alternative just goes out of the proportion, in terms of your ethical argument. So in this debate, whenever I see this debate, I can easily identify the ethical and the practical argument, and they are on the different scale altogether. Obviously you can win both the side, but your ability to identify that which side you are going to be strong with ethical argument, or which side you're going to be strong with the practical argument, that make you a good debater, because that give you strength, that where your ground stand, and it gives to the back that once we got to the gene altering and it become disastrous in some way, that for example, people say that it was happening in the case of COVID. There's a possibility that you get a vaccine this year, and had it become a yearly regular thing, wouldn't that be again a problem to go for? Like, today we're saying we will make vaccine mandatory, and it's good, but we don't know the long term effect. Obviously I'm not someone saying you don't go to for vaccine. I'm fully vaccinated, but I'm saying similarly, and vaccine, we have seen it for last 30 40 50 60 years, at least with polio and other. Gene alteration is altogether a different beast, and experiment on that scales with humans is something that we should avoid when we have so many problems to solve first. So you have to mix this argument with that idea that how much damage on a practical level it can cause given our impact example of plastic, and then says we have different research area to solve first, then we will come to it. So today let's ban it altogether. That's how will you elongate your argument and make it solid. So you have to defend your argument so other people not able to attack it. I hope so you able to absorb at least the first. We don't go deeper into any area, but it gives you a solid uh, you know way to create strong argument and see from multiple perspective how it happens. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question, sir. Do we need to research on this and make an entire speech in case for next class?
Yeah, I think you should go ahead, and I'm going to assign you sides. Correct. Alternative that one going to speak for and against. I'm going to either, and we're going to do 2 versus 2. Correct.
Okay.
So you create a speech. So let me just assign the team. I'm just writing on my for my. I generally use this notes. Uh, okay, so there's one more student was looking to join, but let me see. But today, let's Arjun and Vedant go for together, correct? And Dakshesh goes against. And I'm hoping that other people, the other student, join in by Wednesday. If that is not there, then I will do the speech from his side. So we'll do a 2 versus 2 debate.
Okay, got
Is that
it.
okay?
Yeah, sure.
Sir, the motion is this house will ban
Gene
gene
alteration.
alteration.
Yeah. So our team will share the message with you, but you obviously jotted down. This house would ban all further research in gene alteration. And Arjun Vedant go as a prop speaker. So you need to, and obviously you need to identify who will go first and second. That you identify will create the WhatsApp group and all together. But even then, you look at the constructive argument from both the side, and also look at the possibility what your opponent can say, so you can counter them. Correct. That I will train you
Okay,
POIs and
so we
everything.
are con, right? Or
You
pro?
are pro. You are
Okay.
speak to why we need to ban.
Okay, good.
Okay, and the Akshays will go against, and if the other student don't join to finish the debate, I will go also as against speaker to finish the match.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that clear?
Yeah.
Cool. Then see you on Wednesday.
Okay
Yes.
then.
Sure. Okay.
Bye.
We'll create a WhatsApp group. And if you find something interesting, do share the group
Yes.
that I will create. Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Bye.
See you. Bye.
Bye,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.